I mean, that is exactly how I coach my clients. I say you need to give yourself the freedom to create and document.
The way you build a connection isn't because you present in a certain way, it's because you naturally sort of connect. I think we're inundated in the sort of social media world where there's a lot of pressure. I think when someone's trying to get into social media, there's all these perceptions of who they should be, what they should look like. So I learned this a long time ago, which is you might have heard it 100 times, but the audience is hearing it for the first time.
Get real uncomfortable and things will start to make sense to you.
So how's the podcast going?
It's good. It's good. I love podcasting, which I'm sure
Yeah,
is no surprise to you because you know how much I love to talk to people.
I get to talk
Uh,
to people all day. Exactly.
yeah, I mean, that's my favorite thing to do. So yeah, it's going well. It's mainly, I'm using it as, I call it my authentic content creation machine. So
Uh-huh.
rather than like, okay, I'm going to be this, huge podcaster right away. It's like, no, that's not even my focus. I'm just focused on building connections and getting a ton of content at the same time.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's what podcasts do, right? I mean, it gives you content, you get to build relationships,
yep.
connect, right? All that kind of good stuff. So that's amazing.
I know. I
Congratulations.
just think so many people like stop themselves from starting because they think, well, who's going to listen to it?
Right.
Because at first it takes time, right? Um, but I just like to reframe that to, it doesn't matter if you don't even have a listener. You know you need short form content and you know you need to network and build relationships. So even if
Exactly.
that's all it does, it's worth it.
Exactly.
So when it comes to social media and communicating and building relationships online, what do you feel people struggle with the most?
Good question. Well, as you were saying, communication skills is challenging enough when we're actually in real scenarios with people, like live, right? So if we're having trouble communicating with people every single day in my personal life and my professional life, then we can imagine what that sort of manifests into when it comes down to communicating your brand and your identity and sort of, what your purpose is and stuff. And I think, we're inundated in the sort of social media world where there's a lot of, I think, pressure. I think when someone's trying to get into social media, there's like all these perceptions of, who they should be, what they should look like. And, in a lot of cases, it starts to jeopardize the authenticity of what they're trying to get out there, right? So, I almost look at like social media today like presentation skills. I mean, some of people's biggest fears is standing up in front of an audience and presenting, right? So, speaking to an audience, giving a presentation, the wedding speech is like the ultimate sort of, example of that, right? Where like your
Yeah.
friend comes up and says, "Hey, I want you to give a wedding speech and, say something at my wedding." And we go through this sort of weird moment of like, "Oh God, sure, yeah, happy to do so." And then, the nerves and the anxiety kick in, right? And, while we don't have a live audience in front of us in social media, you still have an audience, right? And I think where people start to go wrong with that is the pressure they put on themselves to, in some cases, be something that they're not, or
Mhm.
they have a perception of who they should be and what they should be like. And I mean, this world, which, the most raw, authentic, sort of unscripted, unpolished videos are the ones that do very well because, as much as you might have, or the individual, the audience might have sort of that imposter syndrome when it comes down to communicating who they are online, everyone else around them. I mean, I learned this a long time ago that in a live presentation, like a speaking gig, the
Mhm.
majority of the audience wants you to win. Right. So when
Yeah.
we're standing up on stage and we're thinking, oh my God, people hate me and they think I'm an idiot and I don't know what I'm talking about and stuff, the majority of people want you to win. And I don't know if, for people, if they've ever noticed that, like if they've been an audience member and they're watching a presenter struggle on stage, the majority of us in the audience are in a place of empathy where we're like, it's
Yeah.
okay, like keep doing it. And maybe you try to make eye contact with that sort of presenter and be like, "Ah, go, you can do it. Like that's good. You're doing great." And again, back to social media, it's not that different, right? I think
Yeah.
if we can sort of just chill out a little bit and not put so much pressure on how we're trying to communicate and what we're trying to sort of get across, but just more have a conversation, right? And sort of have that authentic sort of video put out, it's great. I mean, I used to put so much intention into the editing of the video and the polishing of the video and what the video needs to look like. And if you look at my social media channel today, it's highly edited. I mean, we have a full sort of production team and editors. But for me, I've got into a stage of like the more sort of natural I can be and just sort of have a conversation, uh,
Yeah.
the better. And, what I say to my team is like, just give me a topic to talk about. Like ask me a question and I'll just,
Yeah.
wrap to that and have a conversation and hopefully we'll sort of cut some bits out of it, right? And what I love doing the most when it comes down to social media is not doing the talking head video, but just like what if I'm delivering a session or if I'm doing a speaking gig or if I'm in a coaching session, just recording that and
Yep.
looking at what we could do to edit it after.
Yeah, I think, I mean, for context for people watching and listening, I met you on a sales call
Right.
2 years ago, or maybe more, and I just absolutely loved you and your wife and I mean, just the conversation and learning about you and the work that you guys were doing. And it just, I felt a connection to you guys. And so I prefer that raw type of content of, like, if there was a video of you and your wife just chatting about different life struggles, I'm like, I'd be watching that all day, right? Like, it
Uh-huh.
could be something so simple because I think we overcomplicate it and we think we have to present something really impressive, but it's a lot of just the simple things of life tips of how to navigate these different things that we're all experiencing. That is what's most appreciated, or even you sharing your failures and how
Right.
you overcame them.
Right. Right.
But I think people look at it as like a commercial instead of a relationship.
Correct, correct. And I like the way you phrase that, which is, social media is a relationship, right? It isn't a commercial. And, people relate to struggle. And I think very simply put, the reason is because as human beings, we struggle, right? We
Mhm.
struggle in our marriages, we struggle as parents, we struggle in our business. And, I think gone are the days, early days of social media was maybe a little bit different, right? Where you
Yeah.
really wanted to sort of present this sort of expert factor and how you have this fantastic life and all that stuff. And
Yes.
I also find even in my training and my coaching, I think a lot of the my clients will come back and be like, I really appreciate you telling the story about your kid or about sort of X, Y, and Z and how sort of it's real. And like we're teaching people different frameworks and tools when it comes down to developing and being more effective in communication and emotional intelligence and self-awareness. And I think where people gravitate to a lot of that lessons or the delivery is when I'm up there, I'm like, listen, I messed this up yesterday. I'm about to teach you how not to do it, but this just happened to me yesterday and I
Yeah.
just lost it on my son. Or, I didn't manage it too well with my daughter or my wife. And, the whole idea, like my brand is, making humans better humans. And sort of what sits behind that is we messed it up today, but tomorrow we could be better, right? And
Yeah.
it's kind of like videos, right? And social media, right? Well, whatever you post today, right? You have a new opportunity to sort of redo it tomorrow and maybe
Yep.
do it a little bit better and, share a little more authentic. And I think if people can get past this facade, right? This image that they're trying to portray, they just might have a lot more success in social media,
Mhm.
right?
They will have a lot more success. So what I have found, and I work as exclusively with men, which never would have thought, but that I
Huh.
love it.
Yeah,
And what's interesting, and this applies to both men and women, but especially men, I find they attach their identity and their worth to their professional achievements.
correct.
And so because of that, if they aren't all business and all, hey, look at everything I know and what I have and how much money I make and all these things, they don't know what to talk about. And
Mhm.
so it's been really eye-opening to me. And these are simple questions, but I'll ask them the most effective question that I have to really hone in on their identity is, I want you to imagine that you died today, right now, and who would write your eulogy and
Mhm.
what would they say?
Mhm.
And that one works really well because it gets them to think about, okay, beyond just what I do, what what impact do I want to make? But
Right.
I think it's interesting how so many, especially Americans, uh, don't stop to think about that too often.
Right. Right. They get caught up in the hustle and the bustle and the race and the do. It's funny that you said in today's world, males are really defined by sort of their professional brand, right? Who are they?
Mhm.
I think in a lot of cases we kind of all are, right? But
Yeah.
that was very sort of prominent with the previous generations, the boomers, right? Like when you met a
Mhm.
boomer and you said, hey, what's your name? They would introduce themselves, hey, I'm Greg and I'm the president of Wits Education. Like that was tied in with each other, right? And I think as we've sort of progressed through time and the generations, what people have started to learn and realize is that their professional life isn't their identity, right? And this is where people are searching, right? So what is
Mhm.
their purpose? What do they stand for? What is their sort of individual brand? But it's funny how things are secular, right? So we've come from a world of like once upon a time the boomers were all about their identity and their professional lives, and that sort of started to tail off, and now we're sort of swinging back to that again, right?
Yeah.
And what you start to see today, I think, is in the world of coaching, which you're in and I'm in, a lot of people are jumping on that bandwagon, right? And I think they're jumping on that bandwagon in a negative way, not because they are a good coach, not because, they've got something to offer, but they believe their story gives them the ability to now go and coach, right?
Mhm.
And it's almost like sexy, right? Which is like, what
Yeah.
do you do? Oh, I'm a life coach, right? And
Yeah.
it's like I help people. And besides that sort of industry, if they weren't coaching, how would they sort of define themselves?
Mhm.
So yeah. I mean, look, I travel a lot. I find people, strangers talk to me. It's funny how strangers will open up and just share their entire life and story, right? And I was on the plane the other day and took the earphones off, which is always a mistake, by the way. So if you don't want to talk to people on the plane, keep your earphones on. But I took the earphones off, and this lady sitting next to me instantly turned around and blah blah, blah and started to just like spill her guts on her entire life. But it was all about work, right? It was all about
Mhm.
how she was a hairdresser and she owned a salon and she owned a business and she sold that and blah blah blah. And you can tell in her conversation she was a little lost because she's like, now what? How do I sort of just introduce myself as like, hey, I'm Greg, or hey, I'm
Yeah.
Kate? So yeah, back to this. I think social media should almost be like a reflection of your life versus
Mhm.
a show that you're trying to put on, right? Like,
Absolutely.
if you were to document, and that was in the original days of social media as well, which was like the best content was documented content. I mean, Gary Vee made this famous, right? Which was
Mhm.
instead of trying to produce a video, just have a camera follow you around and sort of just document sort of your life and your activities and what you're doing and how you're doing it, and that sort of will start to come out. And I think if people took that approach a little bit more again, which is let me start documenting and then start to figure out maybe what that brand is and what that
Yeah.
identity is and who they are and how they want to sell, um, they just might get sort of more, they might make more headway with that versus trying to be so scripted and whatnot.
Absolutely. I think that I mean, that is exactly how I coach my clients is I say you need to give yourself the freedom to create and document in many formats, and it doesn't matter if it's not good, just create it and you'll figure it out. You'll figure out what you enjoy and what your audience enjoys. But I think that yeah, too many times everyone just it's all about the way that they're measuring the success is based off of the views or those types of metrics instead of
Yeah.
what about the impact? Like, so I try to shift their perspective to are you getting DMs of people asking you questions about the video you posted?
Yeah.
That to me is success versus tons of views that do nothing. You have to really look at what's the objective and how am I going to measure the success of me showing up. And if it's focused on the relationships, then you can, in my experience, you can stay more focused on that
Yeah. Yeah.
because otherwise you're like, oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, what's the point?
Right. We call those vanity metrics, right? Which
Hmm.
is how many views did I get? And, how many likes that I get versus like what you said, which is like how many conversations are starting
Right.
from that. For me, the goal with social media was always just to be top of mind, right? So,
Mhm.
just sharing the work that I do and, staying top of mind. So when someone was looking for personal development or coaching or call it, communication training, stuff like that, there would be a video of me popping up.
Yeah.
And it was like kind of the universe saying like, hey, now's the right time for you to sort of
Yeah.
reach out. And look, it's been hard. I mean, for me, it took me a while. I also got caught up in all the vanity metrics, right?
Yeah.
Which how many followers do you have, and how many views are you getting, and what's that? Is that video going viral? I think that's
Yep.
also the pressure we put on ourselves originally, which was that whole world of going viral. I mean, that's kind of
Mhm.
how social media almost started, right? Which is, can you make a video go viral? And I'll never
Yeah.
forget this. This was years and years and years ago. I was chatting with a video guy and I'm like, okay, we need to make a viral video.
Yeah.
And he was like, bro, there's no way you can make a viral video. I was like, no, 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 we can make a viral video. Like we'll have the hooks and we'll have the
Yeah.
formula and that video will go viral. And I remember the first video, or not first video, one of the early videos that we did. So back in the day, my company used to be the training company for Apple. So
Okay.
we were considered an Apple authorized training
That's
center. And this
pretty
was
amazing.
across Canada and it was across the US. And, this was when Apple started to come back on the scene from the creative side, right? So if you
Mhm.
were a video editor or if you're into music or photography or whatnot, Apple has all the software, right? So my company would run all of those programs on behalf of Apple. And it was a great business for a long time. From 2004 to 2010, if you touched a Mac from a pro creative standpoint, there was like a 70% chance that you came through one of my training centers.
Okay.
And it was super cool. We got like DJs to teach like the audio production software, and we got photographers to teach
Yeah.
the photography software, and video editors and filmmakers to teach the
Wow.
video editing software. And we made this YouTube video, which was done in front of a green screen where it looked like one was in YouTube and everything just started to fall apart, right? So the text at the top of the window started to fall down and we vacuumed different sort of things on the screen. And it was super, super cool. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, early days, I don't think we actually executed on the production as well as maybe we could have today, just with what
Yeah.
technology's done. And I was like, this video is going viral. It's got all the right
Yeah.
pieces to go viral. Anyway, it flopped. I mean, no one watched it. I don't think that video got something like 12 views. And
Oh
I remember
no.
being so disappointed. Like we've spent hours and we rehearsed and we wrote a script and we had a green screen and we had
Yeah.
all the best production people there. And it was just awkward. In fact, I wonder if I could still find it. I'm sure it's still logged in YouTube somewhere.
Yeah, I could probably search for it.
Yeah.
What has been a video that did perform really well for you?
Yeah. I mean, it's a range, right? I
Yeah.
think, over the years, I don't know if it was one type of video, but what I can say is the two styles of video that I think have done very well for me is the unscripted talking head,
Yeah.
which is the conversation, and then the moments, right, which were just captured, this 12-second moments of me having a conversation with an audience member, or
Yeah.
a 60-second clip of me teaching a framework or a specific type of tool, and just catching that. And I think, to add to that, when there was humor, when it was
Yes.
loose and laid back and chilled and funny and humorous and, just engaging in that way. So not trying to tell a joke and not trying to be funny, but just the moment of laughter and the moment of, we keep coming back to the word authenticity, right? Which was like,
Yeah.
that was a moment we captured, right?
Would you say you're funny, Greg? Like your personality?
Would I say I'm funny? I think I'm
Yeah,
super
I'm curious. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I'm a pretty funny guy. For me, jokes and storytelling and humor and laughing is always just a massive part of like who I am, whether I'm online or whether I'm in a social circle. Um, Sometimes the jokes are a little inappropriate, but
Oh, I
as
love
long
a good inappropriate joke. Those
as
are the
long
best kind.
as long as
Um,
we get a laugh. But if you think about it, one of the most important things we could do in life is laugh.
yes, I
In
agree.
Right. Interesting enough. So blue zone. So as we said, I live in Costa Rica, which is a blue zone. I don't know if you ever saw that Netflix special, which was like the blue zones, where they went
No.
around to the five blue zones and they looked at the commonalities. They said, okay, we got blue zones around the world, Japan, Costa Rica, California, Italy, north of. These are in very different regions. And what's the commonality? So, blue zones being the definition of people live well beyond 100, but healthy. And so, you're 110 years old and you're super healthy, right? You're not like this old crepid, I can't move. And they came up with nine different categories to say these are the commonalities between. And interesting food was up there as well. And what food was saying was like, you're eating natural foods to that region. But the
Okay.
number one thing that contributed to people living longer, to be
Laughter.
centurions, was laughter. And more specifically, social connection and relationships. And if we look at what social media is by definition an opportunity for us to build connections, right?
Yes.
And the way you build a connection isn't because you present in a certain
Yes.
way, it's because you naturally sort of connect
Yes.
and you genuinely show up as who you are. And it's one of those things, which is I either like you or I don't like you.
Yep.
And if we sort of fall back to that, which is we're a herd mentality as human beings, we're meant to live in communities, we're meant to
Mhm.
live in these social relationships. And what contributes to us living healthy and happy is that ability to play and laugh. And we live in a world now where if you're not careful, you're just inundated with negativity.
Mhm.
And I think back to anyone out there that's thinking about sort of pushing on social and sharing, go into that with a little bit of lightness and humor and
Mhm.
funniness and playfulness. And if we take the pressure off, then all of a sudden there's not such a thing as the imposter syndrome.
Yep.
And the truth to the audience, your audience that's listening, is we all have the imposter syndrome in everything we do, right?
Yep.
Even when meeting a stranger. I mean, think about an interview, like a job interview, right?
Yep.
Ultimate imposter syndrome, right? Which is we were talking about sort of, males before. It's well known and documented in research that a male will apply for any job, whether they have the background, the credentials, the experience or not. A female won't, right? A female
Hmm.
will be like, no, maybe I shouldn't go after that job because I don't know if I
I'm
have
not
the right
qualified.
resume and experience. I don't know exactly, right? But the majority of us in interviews are sort of feeling that imposter syndrome. Like, what do I say? How do I say it?
Are
What
they gonna like me? Yeah.
are they going to like me? Are they going to, appreciate it? And it's a very sort of uncomfortable experience to go through an interview if you think about it. The people that end up winning in life are the ones that go into those interviews and they go into it with a little bit of a fuck it attitude, which is like,
Yes.
whatever. We'll have a conversation. You want to hire me? Great. You don't want to hire me? That's okay too.
Yeah. Same
Uh,
with dating.
right.
That attitude. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And I think if more people operated with, let's define that as the fuck it attitude versus
Yeah.
the imposter syndrome, you just might start to find yourself having a lot more success and in turn enjoying it, right? I think that's
Yes.
the other thing when we're trying to do social media, or we're trying to work, like, are you enjoying the process, right?
Mhm.
Um, as you know, I have a podcast and I took a hiatus from it because I wasn't having fun anymore, right?
Why aren't you?
Because it turned into a job. It turned into like I was doing a show a week and it was very put on and it was intense and it became this thing which is like, oh my God, I got to record another show. I got to record another show. I got to get ready for the show. I need to go through the questions I'm going to ask
That's what I was gonna ask you. Let's talk about that for a minute. So it
yeah.
sounds like it was very strategic. It wasn't like just having a conversation.
No, and that's the way it started out, right? It started out, in fact, the first podcast we ever recorded was one of my trainers, and we got a little too drunk, and it was like a 3-hour episode, and he ended up playing
I have to
guitar.
look this up.
It was a complete shit show as an episode, right? But like it was the purest exercise of what we wanted to do, which was we just wanted to sit down and have a conversation with people.
Yeah.
And I found myself it became pressure. Your a podcast is a lot, as you know, right? There's a lot of effort that goes into it. That's why I love what you're doing, which is like your motivation to do this is to just have great conversations. And
Yeah.
if we have a great conversation and we can get some content out of it, bonus. But if
I
not,
should have named it the Fuck It podcast.
you
That's
still
like,
can, by the way. You still absolutely can. Kate's Fuck It podcast, right? Right. I mean, what that's got a great hook to it. I mean,
yeah, it
you
does.
might have some problems with Spotify and stuff, but
But that's like, I mean, that was kind of my attitude was like, just go for it and
yeah.
build relationships, right?
Mm. Yeah.
So, okay, so take us back through this. So you started with that attitude, but then when did it shift? How long were you into it?
So this is like 6, 7 months ago, where
Wow.
yeah, this is recent. I mean, my podcast went for 5 years. Like it was
This is absolutely incredible because the number of people that will make it beyond, well, I looked up these statistics. It's
yeah,
insane. Like most people don't make it past episode 20.
yeah.
That's it. They're done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's I think the challenge with podcasts as well is like podcasts never are taken off. So it's a dead podcast, but it sits there as well. So it kind of it could get a little saturated. I didn't, for me, it wasn't quitting the podcast. It was just taking a break, right? Because I knew that as soon as this became a job for me, we're sort of missing the intention of what this was, which was how do we speak to amazing human beings and get them
Yes.
to share their story. And through that story, maybe we could inspire or maybe we could, contribute to someone's
Yeah.
betterment. Someone can sort of, say, listen, I listened to that podcast and not that it changed my life, but it was impactful. And I'm still recording, right? But now it's more like this, like, hey, Kate, do you want to do a show?
Yeah.
Let's go record a podcast instead of like, okay, Kate's scheduled for next Thursday, and here's her one pager, and here's
Mhm.
the 5 questions you want to ask her and stuff. And we got some big names, and I started to find the bigger the name that we got on the podcast, the more scripted and boxed in I was, because you would get from their group, their agency or their manager.
Oh, so
eh,
they tell you what?
Correct,
Yeah, I
correct.
don't know this world, but
Yeah, specifically if it's like an author and they've got like a new book coming out, like
okay.
one of the reasons they're coming on the show is because they want to obviously promote that, right?
Sure.
Anyway, me being a little bit of a rebellious type of human being, I was like, whatever, we could stay on the script or we could go off the script. And even with those sort of big names, the best conversations and the best interviews were when we did go off script and it
Right.
was just a natural sort of conversation.
Yes.
Right? So yeah.
So, okay, I think that's a good point that you make here because you this is what I want people to hear and to be mindful of to avoid is like and it makes sense now when you're saying this because I get these questions a lot from clients and people that are wanting to start virtual podcasting is how I that's what I call it, right? And they're like, okay, but then how do I write my intro? And then how many questions should I have? And what about this? And what about that? And I'm like, honestly, I don't want you to think about any of that.
Mhm.
What you should be focused on is saying, I'm going to start a podcast. And then, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? And you keep having that conversation and get them on just like you would pretend it's a Zoom call,
Right.
like, because I think so much of it is just the way we look at things. And what I see with social media, with podcasting, pretty much with anything that seems overwhelming if you try to take on too much too soon, you're not going to be consistent and you're
Uh-huh.
not going to keep going. So just get going. You can refine later. Like
Correct.
it's not that big of a deal because that's what holds people back. They try to do every step perfectly and
Yeah.
then it takes the fun out of it. And
Yeah.
you started it with fun, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And then it got okay, now we've got to do it this way and that way and whatever. And then that's what removed the fun because I don't think that we like to be put in a box.
We don't. And I think, if someone is going to start a podcast, one of the first pieces of advice I'd give them is stay committed. Like you gotta
Mhm.
run this out for at least a year, maybe two. Like just
Yeah.
stay committed, right? And it's like a good a presenter, right? When a speaker gets up on stage or a presenter and they're delivering that piece for the first time, they've rehearsed and they've practiced and they've done, but it's after they've delivered that same presentation or that same keynote 25 times, that's when they get really, really, really good. Because
Is that right?
yeah,
Okay.
because if you think about it, there's so much pressure in the beginning when you're a speaker, which is like, all right, here's my keynote. This is what I'm trying to present. This is what I'm trying to get across, and you haven't had the time to sort of run it through, right? And
Yeah.
it's like riding a bike, it's like, we can look at all the dynamics and different components that go into riding a bike, but until you're on that bike and you're actually sort of
Mhm.
pedaling away and riding, that's when you start to get a little more comfortable. And that's when it's not so hard to pedal. And that's when it's not so hard to sort of keep up. And you're not so stiff and you're not so
Yep.
uncomfortable and tense, right? Because we're scared we're going to fall. And that's like speakers, right? Speakers are scared, right? I'm scared to embarrass myself. I'm scared to mess up in front of an audience. And as we said earlier, a live audience, maybe the sort of virtual audience is a little different, but the live audience is forgiving. Like, I used to teach presentation skills, and one of the first things I would teach them is something called the desire factor, because most people get up with what's called the panic factor, which is, oh shit, what if I
Yeah.
embarrass myself? What if they don't like me? What if I can't get the message across? What if I use ums and ers? What if I
Hmm.
forget a line? And the more you focus on that, right? Self-fulfilling prophecy says that's what's going to happen. But
Yep.
if you focus on the desire factor, which is, I really want to be able to share this message, and I want to be able to tell this story, and I want to be able to have the audience walk away with X. You know, it's like driving a car. Where your eyes go, your hands go. So if you're focused on looking to that,
Yes.
the car is going to start to veer to the left, right? But if you're focusing and you're looking forward, and you're looking at where am I trying to get to, and you're keeping your eyes on the prize type of thing, right? The rest will follow. And I think if people are going to start, the hardest part, and for the audience, the most difficult thing you're going to go through, whether it's starting a podcast, sort of, leaning into starting doing more content on
Yeah.
social, is the actual starting factor. Once you've started, the momentum kicks in, and then you start rolling, and then you could, as you said, you can finesse the stuff later. And the
Yeah.
truth, to people that want to start a podcast, no one is going to go back to your show 5 years ago to listen to episode one. They're going to listen to the current episode plus maybe a few behind and whatever that topic might be.
No, it's true. It's interesting that you said that. So um, I love speaking. I don't do a lot of it, so I want to learn more about that. And I thought that was interesting. That's why I was like, oh, 25, okay. Because, but one thing that I had this moment when I was my sister's maid of honor, and I remember this, and now it makes sense kind of with what you're saying. I went to go write her speech that I was going to give. And I just, for days, I was struggling because I'm like, this is going to be so long. Like, which moments do I pick? Like it was almost, it was just too overwhelming because the love was so deep.
Yeah,
Right. And
yeah,
so I remember saying to myself, I just have to say whatever comes to my mind in the moment from the heart. Like, I think that's all I can do because otherwise I don't know how to even structure this. There's too much stuff.
right.
And that's what I did, and it was great. And I
Yeah,
think that's the desire factor. I just didn't know it at the time because
correct.
I wasn't trying to have this like perfect speech. I was just trying to convey like my feelings about my sister. And I couldn't do it in one page, or something, because I'm like, there's no way I can even fit all of that in, in the speech.
Correct.
So I just didn't, I connected those dots there
Yeah.
when you just said that. But my other question about speaking is, okay, if I'm giving the same keynote over and over, my thought in my mind is, am I going to get bored of that?
Yeah. Yeah. Are you going to get bored, or is the audience going to get bored?
Both. Like, because,
Yeah.
I don't, I kind of like the surprise and delight of like, I don't know where this is going to go, but we'll see. Like,
So I learned this a long time ago, which is you might have heard it 100 times, but the audience is hearing it for the first time.
mm,
So what you might be bored with is brand new for the audience. And
true.
if you are a speaker and a presenter, it's not about you, right? It
Yep,
is
you're
about
right.
the audience.
That's
And
true.
right? And it's about sort of what I'm going to give back to your sister's wedding in the speech, right? It's like, all right, I just want to express my love and my feelings and my
Mhm.
sort of, compassion for my sister. And let me just kind of talk to that, right?
Right.
And I mean, she's been your sister your entire life, and I'm sure there's been some boring moments, but for the everyone in the wedding, right? That was a moment that was new for them. And I think
Mhm.
that's what we need to also appreciate about sort of online and sort of communicating and presenting and branding and creating content, which is you might have seen this 100 times, but for the audience, it's new. And on the other side of that coin, for the digital audience or for sort of the social audience, we need to share the same message over and over and over and over
It's
again
true.
because we're inundated with information. So I hear this once from you now, and then I'm inundated with more information, and then I hear it again a couple days later, and
Yeah.
then next week I hear it again. And it takes a few rounds for that message or for that um, piece of advice or that guidance to actually land for people because we
Yes.
are busy. And the truth to it is, we know this, we only retain 20% from what we hear. So as we're
Mhm.
doom scrolling, right, and we're listening and listening and listening and listening, we're really only getting 20% from that.
Yeah.
Now, if that same message is coming out over and over and over again, specifically if it's a very important message, right, at least to you, and it's something that you're committed to and passionate about, and it sort of supports your purpose, go for it, right? I
Yeah.
mean, for me, it's like kind of beg for forgiveness versus permission. I'd rather someone say, I'm so sick and tired of hearing you talk about
Yes.
this versus, oh, I need to come up with something new, 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 new. And for me, that was early days as well. Like every video was a new video, it was a new topic, it was a new
Okay.
piece of advice. And first, that's unsustainable, right?
Yes.
And for me, like I've been in the personal development space for 28 years. Like,
Right.
we were doing coaching before it was even called coaching. I mean,
Mhm.
the original name of the company was called the Personal Development Institute. And
Okay.
we would go out and sell the program, and people would say, listen, I don't want my spouse to know that I'm doing the program, or I don't want my company to know that I'm doing the program. Because back then, personal
It wasn't
development,
cool.
it wasn't cool.
Mm-mm.
Today, it's cool. Today, personal development is everything and anything. And we're starting personal development with kids
Yep.
because we recognize that interpersonal
Oh,
development.
you're starting that? Your company?
Well, we've always done work with sort of teenagers and young adults and stuff, but like just generally, like you're a parent, I'm a parent, like what's
Yeah.
important to us is helping our kids develop those personal skills, interpersonal skills, self-awareness, communication skills,
Right.
emotional intelligence, right? Like this is what we're pounding to our 10-year-olds now, right?
Yeah. So they
Um,
have the right tools, right, to
so they have the
navigate.
right tools and they have the confidence, right? I think if you think
Mhm.
about it, what at the end of the day, what's foundational for all of us? It's our self-esteem.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
one of the things that we know about self-esteem's like a carpet. We all live on a carpet, right? We've got this like sort of, you could Aladdin's carpet, magic carpet, right? We're all sitting on a carpet. In fact, I'm on a carpet now. It's a beautiful Persian rug, right? And it's 5 by 7, right? And we might sort of use this as a metaphor that this is my comfort zone. And as long as I'm on my carpet, I'm comfortable. But what allows us to get a bigger carpet? Well, we got to step to the edge every once in a while. And sometimes we
Yes.
got to step off that carpet. And what we start to realize is as we step off the carpet gets bigger
Mhm.
and bigger and bigger and bigger. And if we keep building that foundation of confidence and self-esteem by taking the risk, by stretching ourselves, by doing things that are uncomfortable. None of
Mhm.
us build confidence by doing the things that are comfortable,
Right.
right? We build our confidence by stretching ourselves and sort of taking that risk. And that's kind of like resilience as well. Like one of the aspects of resilience, there's three main aspects, but I'll talk about two of them. First is having an optimistic attitude,
Mhm.
right? Which is like, all right, I gotta I gotta have a positive mindset and I gotta be optimistic about failure, which
Yeah.
brings us to number one. I have to be willing to fail. And
Yep.
it's not just willing to fail, but it's the willingness to get up after that failure.
Mhm.
And if I can do those things, that's going to start to allow me to build that resilience. And we might argue that social media requires resilience
Yes.
because we are going to present things that people are going to disagree with and they're not going to like and they're not going to engage with and they're not going to have our views go to 100
Mhm.
million. And if you're so worried about being liked and accepted, right? First, I mean, good luck on social media because It's the opposite to that, right? Which
Yeah.
is we need to keep sort of pushing these things and building them. And through that experience, you build resilience.
I love that. So, okay, a couple of things stood out to me with what you said there. That, first you said you were trying to recreate, come up with new ideas all the time. You also said, though, which I think is a great point, that you got to say the same thing over and over again because we have so much information coming at us and it's not going to stick the first time. But then I think in order to do that, in order to say the same thing over and over again, you've got to be deeply passionate about it and it has to be tied to your purpose, like you said.
Correct.
So, which is another issue is that many people, they don't have the self awareness and they don't know what their purpose is. So, for everyone listening, I'd like to hear your purpose, Greg, of like just your personal, like life purpose,
Mhm. Yeah.
and how that is aligned with everything and helps to keep you going.
Yeah, so I'll share this with the audience. I didn't discover my purpose until about, I don't know, 5 years ago.
Wow.
I mean,
Okay.
I've been in this industry for a long time, and I was in it, and I do what I do because I'm good at it, right? I'm like, and not sounding narcissistic, but I'm an excellent facilitator. I'm a great
Mhm.
speaker. I'm a really good coach, and the work we do is based on psychology. So our frameworks and our concepts and our tools are deep, right? There's
Mhm.
substance behind it. But for a very long time, the thing was, this is what I do, and you back to
Mm.
we define ourselves. Oh, I'm the president of this company, and it wasn't until about maybe 5 or even longer, man, 6 years ago, that it just kind of came out of nowhere, where this whole sort of concept of making humans better humans, and that kind of stuck, right? And it stuck because it was one of my facilitators that came in. She had T-shirts made for the holiday party, and it said "Making Humans Better Humans," and we're all like, "What is this?" And she was like, "This is what we do every single day."
Oh,
I'm like,
wow.
"Holy shit." I'm like, "That's it. This is why we get out of bed every morning. We don't get out
Yeah.
of bed to sell a leadership program, but it's the people that come back and go, the stuff that I learned corporately or from that leadership program, I'm applying it more as a mom or a dad with my kids, or I'm
Mhm.
using this more in my personal life, or you know, this made a major impact in my own self-awareness and my own growth." And, back to the purpose, what sort of drives me in all of this, which is how do I just become a better human tomorrow? Like I could fuck it up
Mhm.
today, but tomorrow's a new day. And my father used to say this, there is no refund on yesterday, but
Mm.
you have choice and power today. You can choose to do something different. So really what drives me is how do I just do it better tomorrow? Can I show up and be a better dad tomorrow? Can I show up and be a better husband tomorrow? Can we do a better deal tomorrow? Can we have a better relationship tomorrow? Can we inspire someone differently tomorrow? And it's back to the desire factor, right? Which is where am I going with this stuff? And
Mhm.
how am I sort of focusing on the work itself
Yeah.
versus the outcome of the work,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Mhm. What did you have a moment in your life where I mean, I guess maybe the question is, how did you get into personal development?
Yeah, great question. So my father started the company, and I needed a summer job 28 years ago, and I rolled in, and I did not want to work there. Like I was forced.
Your father started this wow.
Yeah. So I had dropped out of high school. I had taken off to work at Club Med with a couple buddies. So for like 2 years, we were at Club Med, running around the Caribbean, right? And entertaining the guests, right? We were we
The
were
life of the
we were
party.
we were guest entertainers, right? And I mean, this was between the ages of like 18 and 20. Like I dropped out of high school the last year of high school,
Oh,
right?
wow.
So, and I hated school. Like I did not do well in school. I did very well in school when I liked the teacher, had a good relationship with the
Uh-huh.
teacher,
Yeah.
but the
I
rest was
could
his. Right.
uh-huh.
Anyway, very long story short, I get back and my mother says to me, "What are you doing with your life?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And she's like, "Well, you either need to get a job or you need to go back to school." And I was like, "I'll get a job," thinking I was very quick on the draw. And she's like, "Great, do you have an interview?" And I'm like, "No." She's like, "You got no interviews set up?" I'm like, "No, not yet." And she's like, "Okay, well, until you have interviews set up, you're going to go work at your father's." And I rolled in, and my father said this. He said, "Listen, I don't want you here. The only reason you're here is because your mother, and I don't want to see you." And
Oh,
I did not have a good relationship with him. It was a very tense relationship. He was a
even
very,
though you had the skill set to
yeah,
interesting.
right.
Okay.
So I mean, very brilliant man, but this could be a whole other episode.
Okay.
But I rolled in there and he said, go work with Diane. Diane was a receptionist at the time. And at the time, I was like doing trifold brochures. So for those that don't know that, there was a big machine that you stuck a piece of paper in and it went clunk, clunk, clunk,
Yeah.
and it would fold it into three. And like that's what you would hand out as your marketing material and just doing gopher work.
Yep.
And this is like 3 months into it, and I'm like, man, life sucks. Like, can I do sales? Can I do something else? And he was like, there's no way you're doing sales, but what you are going to do is you're going to come and do the program. And the program was a 12-week interpersonal skills program. Same program today, obviously very modernized today and updated in a lot of different ways. And it was a life-changing program. Again, the programs that we deliver are based on psychology. And what
Hmm.
psychology does for us is it helps us understand who am I? So, what's my
Hmm.
personality? Why do I act and behave and respond and feel and communicate the way I do? And then how do I deal with other people? Right.
Yeah.
And I did the program. It was a life-changing program. And fast forward that conversation, I got into sales. And this is by the age of like now 22, 23.
Oh,
And
pretty young. Yeah.
I'm like the highest performing salesperson out of the group at like 22
Wow.
years old
Wow.
and got into facilitation. And I got into facilitation because one of the facilitators called in sick and there was 18 people sitting in a class. And I'm like, well, I know the material well enough. I'll teach tonight's class.
Yeah.
Talk about feeling like the imposter syndrome, like standing up in
Right.
front of 18 adults at 22 years old,
Yeah.
teaching them, all this stuff. And then went back to school and did a background in adult education and human behavior. And for years, just facilitated and sold and facilitated and sold. And just got really, really good at it. And my father ended up passing in 2011. And at that point, I was running the Apple business. And when he passed, I ended up buying the business and sitting down with the team. I remember this conversation like it was yesterday and sat down with the team and said, look, I don't know what the hell we're going to do as a business, but I do know the work we do and the training we do and the coaching we do makes an impact. So
Mm.
why don't we just run it for the year and see what happens? And like, if we make money, great. If we don't make money, that's fine too. And let's just go. Anyway, we did. And it was an amazing year, as a group of facilitators and the team, we were making an impact. Right. And
Yeah.
that then continued and then take us all the way up to 2020 with the pandemic. We went to zero in revenue because all the contracts called.
Yeah.
Hey, we got to cancel. We're not doing live training. And we also came, like the whole company, myself included, have a very extensive background in video production. So
Okay.
went and bought all the video equipment and got Zoom and said, we'll just deliver this virtually for the first time.
Yeah.
And we called up all the clients and said, look, I know you canceled the contract, but we're running the training for free. So if you signed up for
Wow.
coaching, if you signed up for training, you're still welcome to come. We're not going to charge you. We're going to do it for free.
Wow.
And we did it on the honor system, which is if you weren't affected financially, please pay. And if you were, don't pay.
Yeah.
And that was another amazing year of just the work, right? It was just purely about the work, which is the
Yeah.
impact and the training and the coaching. And it was an awesome year. We made no money. I think we came out in the red on that year. And we definitely did come out in the red, but it was a really, really good year. And then we exploded. And I think we exploded for a few different reasons. One, because now as I'm being able to deliver virtually versus live, you can now 1,000
Yeah.
people instead of 10 people in a room. And that was sort of, a very long story made short, but this was not my plan. I fell into the industry and I just happened to be mentored and taught by some of the best and was naturally good at facilitation and sales. And again, like I said, it wasn't until about 6 years ago that I figured out what my purpose was, right? Up until then, it was just around, I'm good at this and let's just keep doing it.
Yeah. I think that I feel like most people find their calling like that. It's not what you think it was gonna be,
For
you
sure.
know?
For sure.
It happens to you. I mean, that was certainly what happened to me too. I was selling and then then it just all kind of turned into what it is today, which I'd sell someone, they come back to me. I want you to keep coaching me.
All
I'm like,
right.
but I'm not your coach. I just sold you the program.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so, I think that, yeah, you have to have faith and know that, yeah, you got to trust the universe or God or whoever that you'll be led in the right direction and you have a feeling when you're in the right thing.
1,000%. But that's why you're great at as a coach, and that's why like you'll be super successful. It wasn't because you woke up one day and said, you know, I'm going to be a coach, and I think
No.
it's great, and I'm going to create a social media channel, and you're going to call me Coach Kate from now on.
Right.
You found yourself doing it naturally, and then it started to evolve and build,
Mhm.
and then something hit you. You're like, shit, maybe this is what I should be doing. Let's go give
Yeah.
it a shot. And to the point of what we were talking about, taking risk and like the resilience and the comfort zone and stuff,
Mm.
you did it. You didn't do it because there was a precise plan. You didn't
No.
do it because there was a guaranteed outcome. You didn't do it
Yeah.
because you had everything set up. You said, let's just start going and doing. And through that, you'll you'll build a lot of success. And then the next thing you know, you're gonna have a roster of coaches working underneath you as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you really do. You feel it's like a and that's why everything goes back to the self-awareness and understanding who you are because I think for me, I did a training too. I'm sure I told you. I did
Uh-huh.
like a leadership training and I wonder it's probably somewhat similar to yours, but it was very deep work of understanding who I am and what I care about and how I'm motivated, all these things.
Uh-huh.
And after I had done that, and I had done lots of leadership trainings before, but that one was really, you really got deep. And my perspective shifted, my perspective on being uncomfortable, facing fears. I mean, that completely changed. And I realized, because that to me was the real key, is like the more things that you do that scare the shit out of you, to be honest, like that's when you really grow. It's not like these little, like, whatever things. It's like get real uncomfortable
Yeah,
and you will, things will start to make sense to you. But
correct.
most people just aren't willing to do that because it's scary. Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Well, that's the
yeah, that's,
carpet. You stepped off the carpet, right? And then as you
yeah,
stepped off, your carpet got bigger, right? And you're like,
yeah,
whoa, I'm still on the carpet now. And that's it. I think, you know, there's two types of mindsets for this conversation. There's the fuck it mindset. Let's
yeah,
do it, right? And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, at
yeah,
least you got the experience, right?
right.
There's no harm, and you're not going to be off any worse if
Mm-mm.
you do it and you fail. In
Yeah.
fact, we might argue you're going to be in the exact same position that you were before versus trying it, right?
And then you can learn something, you know?
Exactly. Or
Yeah.
you're in the scared mindset, right? That oh my God, I don't want to try it, right? And then
Mhm.
you're stuck in the same position anyway.
Yep.
So it's kind of you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't almost, right? Which is very best case scenario. You step off that carpet, you take the risk, you give it a shot, and something magical might just happen.
Yeah.
It just might work out, you know, it just might lead you to bigger and greater things.
No, it's so true. I mean, yeah, I think that's been any time I've invested in myself, any training has been so worth it. More people need to invest in programs like that and and just and believe that it will help them and not be so people are just so guarded is the other issue that I find. But so how do we you do the trainings virtually now,
Yeah,
but
virtual and live, and yeah, all which
where do
things.
the live trainings happen?
So um, we have a training center in Toronto where we have open enrollment programs. So
Okay.
individuals and companies send individuals to those programs. Offices in the U.S. as well, in Ohio, and then the rest is online. In fact, I got a program. It's called Better Communication that's delivered virtually online. It's an 8-week program.
Okay.
And people log in from everywhere, Europe and the US and Canada, and it's great.
Do they get on live calls with you?
Yeah, so there's live sessions with me delivering it and my facilitators as well.
Okay.
And then there's coaching that's, you know, gets tagged in. We've always done the combo for when it comes down to the development, which is training and coaching. So anyone that's coming through a training program is
Mhm.
also getting a coach along the way. So
Okay.
they work with an individual throughout that program. What that really helps do is make sure that you're giving individuals the opportunity to have that space to deepen their understanding of the concepts, make sure
Mhm.
that they're getting guidance and advice on how they're applying the frameworks. Sometimes just a sounding board. I had a
Oh,
coaching
yeah.
session earlier with a client, and we were saying, like, his coaching session was just more about he just needed space to talk to someone.
Mhm.
Can't talk to his wife, can't talk to his kids, can't talk to his boss, can't talk to his peers, and he's suffering in silence. And just having that sort of space where you could work with someone where you're not going to be judged and you're not going to be fixed and you're not going to be
Yeah.
advised, and you're just there's a sounding board sort of approach. And that's what therapy at its core is, which is, how do I debrief through my stuff with an individual that's not going to judge me?
Yeah, that's a lot of the work that I do too, I feel like, because they oftentimes have the answer to their question, but
Right.
they just had to talk through it, and yeah, exactly what you said. There's just, like, you need to give someone, and I think asking the right questions so that they can think about it, and then that's a lot of times all it takes, and then accountability. Don't you feel like accountability is just huge? Like, it's not even that everything is so groundbreaking as far as, like, trainings go, it
Yeah.
seems like. It's
Yeah.
the doing it.
Yeah, well, that's a joke about working out, right? Like, if you have a friend to go to the gym with, you'll show up because
Mhm.
you don't want to disappoint them.
Yes.
But if you want to go to the gym by yourself, there's a good chance that you go, fuck it, I'll do it tomorrow, right?
Yeah,
Because we're
you
very
don't
comfortable
do it yourself.
disappointing ourselves, and
Yeah.
we'll easily let ourselves down, but we won't let other
Mhm.
people down.
Yeah. Yeah, so, okay. Well, when is it open enrollment? How does that work for the 8 weeks?
Yeah, so that's just one program, but it's open enrollment. If people were interested, they could sort of hop online, see the program outline and sort of the different upcoming cohorts and dates that they could
Yeah.
sign on with. The website's witzeducation.com, so WITZ education.com. And we have a range of programs and stuff, but the communication skills program, which is called Better Communication, is is a awesome program. We get a ton of amazing response for it, and back to it's the one thing that we don't really learn in life is how to
Mhm.
communicate, or how to communicate effectively.
Yeah.
Communicate all day, but how do we communicate effectively? And that includes, how do you deal with aggressive and difficult personalities, and how do you understand your personality, and how do you develop that self-awareness and tools and processes that you can practice. It's not just left
Yeah.
up to sort of the whim or winging it, which is like, okay, this is the concept of it. It's like, here's your 5 steps to go have that conversation effectively.
Yeah. Well, and, like, don't you feel people avoid conflict?
Yeah.
'Cause that was my lesson, is like, "Oh, conflict doesn't have to be bad. I can still have conflict and still have a conversation about it and my, opinion." And
Correct.
that doesn't but I used to think, "Oh, I can't do that." So I would just avoid.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yes, with that conflict, but in most cases in life, people will avoid. They'll avoid conversations,
Mhm.
they'll avoid conflict, they'll avoid decisions, they'll avoid doing the hard thing, they'll
Yeah.
avoid going to the gym, they'll avoid,
Making
you
a
know,
video.
making a video. And at the end of the day, it's a survival component to who we are as personalities or people, and it also becomes in some weird way a coping mechanism, right? Which is, I'm just going to avoid, I'm just going to withdraw, I'm just going to internalize, I'm just going to back off. And that becomes not just how I survive my relationships and my brand and my identity, but sort of how I cope with difficult situations as well.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, we need to all go check out your training, because yeah, this is good stuff. And do you do events, or I mean, like, I know you do the training events, but do you do other, like, live conferences type of things?
Yeah, usually I'm like a speaker at those live conferences.
Okay.
We haven't put it on. We're in the midst of looking to put on a couple retreats in Costa Rica, so
Oh,
I'll keep you updated with that as
keep me
well. But
updated.
yeah,
Yeah.
in fact, it's topical, but it's really around, how do you brand yourself in life and how do you brand
Oh,
yourself online?
I
And it's
love
really
it.
based on a lot of the concepts that we teach. And I've got a couple other amazing sort of experts coming in. And,
Yeah.
right now the floating name is Better Human, or potentially Better
Hmm.
Me.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
and it's going to be a 3-day retreat in Costa, and lots of workshops and teaching, and then filled with some excursions. So that's
Yeah,
launching
keep
next
me
year.
posted on that. And
I
then
for sure will.
I don't know if you guys have this yet or have thought about it, or maybe it already exists. I don't know. But do you do something where it's couples focused?
Yeah, so funny that you brought that up. We have a coaching option called Better Couples, which is
Okay.
how do we and there's a we're looking to put that on as a program as well, but right now it's just a coaching offering. And then we
Okay.
got something called Better Family, which is how
I love
does, the parents and the kids need to be adult kids come in and go through this learning where they could develop those communication tools and those emotional intelligence tools and as a family and be able to apply them more effectively with each other and have a
that's
better relationship with your kids and a better relationship with your parents.
I love that. I think the couples thing and the family, like if you started making more content around that alone, oh my gosh, I feel like that would just be I just people are craving that so much
Yeah.
is from what I've seen.
I'm glad that you said I literally had that meeting this morning with
Wow.
with my team, which is they were like, look, why don't we start getting you to do a little more focused content around couples and
Yes.
thing. And I've always kind of resisted a little bit because I'm not a couples therapist, but back to
Yeah.
the imposter
You
syndrome,
don't have to be.
you don't have to be, right? And your relationships don't have to be perfect either, right? We
No.
just need to be able, and I've always said this, as long as I'm practicing the stuff that I teach, we're good to go.
Yeah.
Um, and that's sort of the measuring stick in all of this, which is, am I using it? And if I'm using it,
Yeah.
then we can teach it to other people.
I mean, look, I'll tell you, like, I mean, I do not have, on paper, I am not qualified to coach these men that I coach. Like, I'll say that out loud. I'll tell them that. Like, as far as if you just look at me on paper, I don't know how I got here. But for whatever reason, I'm very good at helping men open up, get out of their head into their heart, and communicate in that way so that they can actually build connections. And I can't make sense of it. I'm not, I don't have the education for
Yeah,
this. But I have over 50 men that I have helped, and they all have the same transformation.
it's
And so
amazing.
I don't even judge it anymore. I'm just like, okay, well, this is what God wanted to use me for, I guess. Um, but but I don't know, maybe that's reckless. I don't know.
Well, it's reckless if you're giving them bad advice, right? But it's not reckless if you're doing and accomplishing what you just said, which is we're seeing people shift and we're seeing them move and we're seeing these guys sort of move from more of that sort of head to heart. And I think that's great. I think it's awesome.
So
Keep going.
anyway, just I to you I say, give us all the relationship stuff because people want it so bad right now, and I see tons of content too, uh, that's performing quite well on those different topics, and so I think, in fact, I'll send you some ideas of things I think you
Love it.
should do
Please do
because
so.
I think we need it. Okay, for the intro, Greg, did you send it to me?
No, I'm
Or
going to send it to you now. So as soon as we log off, I'll hit send. Give me about 10 minutes because I got to run up to the house and
okay,
switch cars with my wife. Um, and we'll go from there. But no, this was
okay.
awesome. If you want to do a
And then,
part two, just let me know. We'll set it
oh,
up.
I'd love to. I mean, there's so much more that I need to connect you with some people too. Because are you doing the podcast now? You're back
Yeah,
and doing
yeah.
it?
Like if you send people for a podcast, I would set it up for sure.
Because I have. Well, do you know James? Oh my gosh, why am I forgetting James's last name? He was like the Secret Millionaire on ABC.
Uh,
James.
sounds
Why am
familiar.
I forgetting his name? His
Sounds
last name.
familiar.
He's written several books, and he's in the personal development space. Hold on, I'm gonna tell you right now because it's gonna bug me. Uh, James Malinchak.
Mm. I think maybe if I saw him or if I saw the book, I'd recognize
I
it. But
think you well, I think you should do a podcast with him. And then my friend Adonis, he's really blown up online and has a coaching program. He talks about manifestation,
cool,
but he also talks about law of detachment.
cool.
And I just think you guys would have a fascinating conversation. So I can
Love
make
it.
those
Yeah, do the
connections.
connection. That would be amazing. I super appreciate you.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, there's gonna be more people I think of, but yeah, so let's do another one. And yeah, we'll just go from there, you
Awesome.
know.
Well, you
And
were
then I'll
great.
do your intro when you send me the stuff. So,
Okay, cool. You did a great job. You're a great interviewer. Well done.
oh, thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate that, especially
awesome.
coming from you. So,
Awesome. All
um,
right. Well, listen, you stay
okay.
happy. Keep doing what you're doing. Definitely part two. I'll send you the
Yes.
one pager. Give me about 10, 15 minutes, and
Okay.
then I will yeah, let me know if you need anything, and then let me know when this is coming out, and we'll push it out on my channels as well.
Okay, perfect. And then yeah, tell your wife I said hello as
I
well.
will.
And
I
then
will.
keep me posted on the retreat too.
Yeah, totally,
So,
totally. Awesome.
okay. All
Thanks,
right.
mate.
See you,
You have a good
Greg.
one.
You
Ciao.
too.